Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and here's a headline from Yahoo Finance. XRP whales bought 120 million XRP crypto in 3 days. XRP USD to $5. And this is what tends to happen. As we saw this most recent dip, of course, those splishy, splashy whales out there getting aquatic AF, they were happy to purchase the fear of the retail panic seller, and they got XRP on the cheap. And given the size of these whales, I mean, look at this. Here, I'll show you the post where this comes from. I don't even need to read the article to you. This is a post from chart analyst Ali Martinez. He's highlighting this. 120 million XRP bought by whales in the last 72 hours. And these are some large holders. You can see upwards of Walt's holding upwards of 100 million XRP and as low as 10 million. So it's just interesting to see that would indicate that that's almost exclusively going to be on the institutional large holder side. And what else is going on? What's the backdrop? Well, in October, there's a lot of speculation that we're finally going to get some spot XRP ETFs approved. There's all sorts of stuff happening there. Our institutions, stocking up before an expected massive move for XRP. And really, even outside of that, just to be clear, I don't think that you need excellent ETF news for XRP to get this son of a gun to just rocket way higher. It has been artificially suppressed for the better part of like half a decade, and now it's finally free. The war on crypto is over, and it turns out XRP is excelling in a level playing field. So I'm going to highlight perspective from a ton of XRP chart analysts in this video. In fact, this video is almost 100% exclusive XRP coverage. And you're going to see some reasons to be very optimistic. And I'll also tell you this, people, despite what you've seen for much of the last few days, I mean, I know like technically over the last 24 hours, you've seen the market, at least at the time I'm recording this, jump up a bit. But for the 3 days leading up to that point, which is what's certainly being referenced here, the whole market was down, including XRP. I'll just tell you this, though. There are a lot of holders that are refusing to capitulate, and there is very clear strength within the XRP ecosystem. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Here's a post from Mikey Bull Crypto, and he's being sarcastic here, obviously. He wrote, XRP is dead. And then you wrote, but chart, ... How many times has XRP been declared dead over the years? Just a ton of times. And it's funny, alive and well, number 3 in market cap out of tens of thousands of coins, been around for it's been in existence over 13 years now. The fundamentals have never been stronger, but XRP's dead apparently. Some people actually say this crap. And, that type of narrative was even more prevalent a year ago leading up to its breakout in November, which occurred, of course, after the election. And so he noted a chart pattern here, and he wrote, XRP is dead, except for then obviously it blasted off. And he's saying the same thing here. He's like, XRP is dead, and what do you think happens next? It's going to have its second major leg up in terms of price, if history is to rhyme with itself. I'm willing to bet that ultimately happens. Here's a post from chart analyst Galaxy, XRP USD chart on the screen here. And he wrote, XRP price action is getting very compressed. Expecting strong moves as this breakout will coincide with breaking out the previous all-time high and price discovery. And you can see ever since the most recent all-time high of $3.65, which started rampaging in July, it is true, and I've noted this as well. You don't need to be a chart guy to understand this simple concept. As time has passed since then, the trading range has become more and more narrow, and that's why you draw these trend lines. And what happens? Well, before you hit the apex of one of these, you typically break out. And given that we're in a bull market, it makes all the sense in the world to believe that when we have this massive breakout, it's going to be to the upside rather than the downside. Unless there's some sort of black swan event, which nobody can predict anyway by definition, I think we're going to be pretty happy with where this ends by the time the cycle's over. Way higher. And chart analyst X-Force Global sure as hell believes that. Here's his most recent post on this from just a couple days ago, before XRP price had even started to recover. So like the recovery from yesterday is not the reason that this is posted. He has real, very, very genuine conviction that XRP is going into double digits. And he says here, the more we see XRP accumulate, the stronger the targets. In other words, more accumulation equals more bullish. $20 to $30 targets still remain as my primary idea. People aren't selling. Yeah, so I will say there are people that get liquidated, which is always part of the reason that we're seeing the volatility that we see, even if it's to the downside. And there will be some people that panic, so it's not that literally no one is. But there are so many people that have ridiculously strong conviction. I count myself among that group, and I'm willing to bet that many of you do as well. There are just people that will not sell because we have this feeling that it's basically like we know that we are correct, and we're going to see this son of a bitch through. We're going to see it through, and we're finally going to see for the first time in like 8 years true face melting price discovery. That's the last phase of this thing that we're waiting for, the face melting part. We really haven't seen that since the beginning of 2018, but it's coming. It's just ridiculous to think that face melting that happened almost 8 years ago, that would be the last time it would ever happen and then never again. Like, it's just silly nonsense. You know, just like, so now we know that XRP would hit new all-time highs this cycle because it's happened multiple times. But even leading up to this, I kept insisting, like, the idea that XRP, especially with this increased utility compared to back in the day, like 2017 when I jumped into crypto, like, the idea that was it, the January 4th, 2018 all-time high at $3.35, that was it. It's all she wrote. It survived the SEC nonsense, but that's it. Never going to hit a new all-time high. Like, it was always just silly nonsense. We just have to wait. We don't choose when it goes, but it sure as hell goes. That's for damn sure here. And so this idea of XRP hitting $20 to $30, I will not be surprised if that happens. If in particular, if we're not putting a time target on that. If you're talking about this cycle, I don't think it's crazy to speculate that it could hit those prices this particular market cycle. I just don't make price predictions myself. I admit I don't know. But I know that ain't crazy. That is absolutely plausible. We'll see. And maybe the more conservative price predictions of like $10, maybe that'll end up proving to be correct. I don't know. But I mean, truthfully, usually when it comes to this type of thing, like the truth somewhere between the extremes, but this could happen. $20-$30, folks, just sit tight here. I think it's coming. And chart analyst Bobby A responded to this and said, once accumulation is finished and sellers are exhausted, the move out of here will be explosive. Yeah, that sure as hell is true. And look at who's accumulating right now and who's panic selling. It's the smart money that has been buying. Very obviously. The typical lemming retail speculator behaves differently than the smart money, the big money. Chart analyst XR Punky responded to this as well and said, you called this in your charts for the longest time. You knew we could have this drawn-out consolidation, that is happening, obviously, where no one else talked about it. XRP could be in this gigantic ABC, which is not over yet, but once it completes, we are going much higher. It's just boring at this stage, LOL. Yeah, well, consolidation can always be viewed as boring. I always have a fun time tracking this stuff from day to day just because it's exciting having skin in the game, frankly. But yeah, I can see how some people could think that's boring. But he's right. So another analyst being like, yeah, consolidation, normal, going way higher. And he has that conviction as well. All these analysts do. There's this post from chart analyst CW. This is from yesterday. The sell wall for XRP exists until $3. So there could be some turbulence as we get closer to $3, but if we can chew through that. Whew. And I've seen multiple analysts cite that. In fact, I think it was chart analyst Dom who cited specifically $3.03. If you can get above that, you're probably sitting pretty. Here's a post from Chart Nerd. He said, fade XRP at your own risk. And then he shared one of his older posts from, I say older, just a day older, September 28th, where he was highlighting XRP is hitting some seriously high price targets here. $8 will be a key one. Then he cites $15 and $27 potential. There are so many analysts who believe that is absolutely possible this market cycle. And these are analysts, by the way, who accurately called XRP breaking to the upside this market cycle when it was not popular to say that. You know, they just stuck to their guns. Their conviction is their conviction. And forget it if there's going to be people screaming about it. But now, of course, at this juncture in time, you know, you can't find negative price expectations for XRP for this market cycle. Like they almost don't exist. Because, first of all, they don't make sense, so that's a primary reason. But all the people that would normally spew nonsense charts about XRP because they hate it, and they let their bias seep into the charts, they've stopped doing that almost entirely because they end up with egg on their face and they get embarrassed, so they just stop doing it. Now, that's going to come back in force after XRP finally hits its peak, which will happen, and then the price will crater and down. Happens every cycle, not the end of the world. But those people are going to come back. But do you see how stupid this is? I'm just going to highlight to them. I noticed that you shut the hell up with your stupid face hole for like, over a year while XRP was rampaging. And then when the price goes down, which happens with every coin, including Bitcoin, now you pipe up, and you know this is coming. And I'm going to mock it when it happens. Ruthlessly mock it, because it's just so stupid. Here's a post from chart analyst Bobby A. XRP USD here, and we are at a key point here, folks. Take a look at this. I mean, this is the last day of the third quarter. And so he says here, and he posted this September 27th, but he wrote, in 3 days, XRP will close its fourth 3-month candle above the highest 3-month candlestick close of its prior cycle. It is also on track to close a 3-month candle body above the previous 3-month candle wick high amid a highly fearful market without even reaching a 1.618 extension. Think bigger. And so he clearly firmly believes that XRP is very well positioned. The charts are saying very good things about XRP, and that means ultimately much, much higher, my friends. And then we have this. This is from chart analyst Casey Trades, XRP USD. It says XRP bearish divergences hint at lower supports before the break. XRP has shown some momentum off the black trend line I highlighted last week. The respect of this level is encouraging, but we're not in the clear yet. Price hasn't broken above the critical $3 resistance. That remains the ultimate goal for confirming a new trend. Until then, downside tests remain valid, with $2.79 and $2.58 as the key supports. The concerning part is that the recent move from the trend line looks more like a clean ABC rather than a 5-wave impulsive rally. Price perfectly rejected the targets for the C wave and has now printed bearish divergence up to the 4-hour chart. These conditions don't line up with the start of a true wave 3 breakout. On the 1-hour RSI, we're testing the bottom support trend line now. I'm using this for tracking this next move. Okay, let me pause here to say, I have seen multiple analysts who, again, these people accurately called XRP breaking out this market cycle. They were right. I've seen multiple analysts warn that there is at least a possibility that we go down. There are many chart analysts. I highlighted a couple in my very last video. Here, so this is another one. Just acknowledging, yeah, could go lower, not the end of the world. So check this out. Ideally, XRP avoids making a new low below $2.69. If that happens, the count would need to be reset. Even so, a test to $2.58 remains valid and could still support a much larger bullish move to new highs. What we don't want to see is $2.58 breaking. That would invalidate the bullish market structure and threaten the macro outlook. Okay, that part, although I think a different price level may have been cited, that reminds me of something that chart analyst Dom was saying. If it hits, I can't remember exactly the level, but it was the same type of thing. He's like, and I shared it in my last video, but it's like, yeah, if that happens, the structure and the entire macro structure for XRP might be broken. And I've seen a few analysts say things like that. So the odds of that happening perhaps then would be low. Like XRP is obviously showing a lot of strength, especially all things considered. Even during this most recent dip over the last several days, XRP's been fine. There's nothing disastrous happening. I mean, if we're talking about XRP, hanging out even close to $3 when the market's falling apart as it is, that's pretty badass so far as I'm concerned, because most of the time that I've been holding XRP, which is almost 8 years now, it's been worth more like 30 cents. So, yeah, the see that we're hanging out in hard times close to $3, I'm not crying. You just need to have a bit of perspective here. Anyway, then she says, for now, supports haven't changed. We're still waiting for one of these key levels to provide the momentum needed to break through resistance. Remember, when XRP is truly ready to begin wave 3, these macro resistance levels, $2.79, $3, and $3.25, should break cleanly and without hesitation. If we continue to see hesitation and rejection, it signals more downside testing is needed first. And so you'll note, obviously, there's a recognition here that even if that happens, big picture, nothing's broken. Okay. Then she wraps up by stating, watch Bitcoin closely for alignment and watch for bullish divergence to show up in this next wave down. Once that momentum appears, XRP has everything in place to push for the breakout we've been waiting for. And so this is an exciting time. Even if Bitcoin peaked this cycle, which I'm not yet convinced of, but I mean, even if that happened, we're still going to have alt season. XRP is still going to melt faces. Like that doesn't change here. And look at this. This is a headline from Cointelegraph. XRP price, record quarterly close may trigger rally toward $15. And so Bobby A was talking about the importance of a quarterly close. They were also citing perspective from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto, saying it's a perfect setup effectively for $15. And look at this subheading. XRP mirrors 37,800% rally setup from 2017. You gotta love this. XRP will continue to trend higher in the coming weeks or months if it remains at or above the current level until the quarter officially closes, according to Mikey Bull Crypto. And again, this is the last day. It's the last day of the quarter. He says his bullish outlook stems from a similar record close in 2017, which preceded a 37,800% rally in the price of XRP. So he's saying the setup we have now, which resulted in the biggest percentage gain in like XRP history, that's where we are right now structurally. I mean, facts are facts, my friends. You'll love to see it. Not that it would be the same percentage gain because there's more money in XRP right now. So you won't get the same ROI, obviously. But it can still be wild and life-changing. He says, anyway, back then XRP ended Q4 2017 at a fresh quarterly close above 2 cents, breaking through a multi-year resistance area. And I don't know why they cited that. I mean, for much of Q4 in 2017, I mean, it was more like 20 cents. So maybe they meant to type that. Now, XRP did begin 2017, I think, at like half a penny. And so if you're just talking about notable levels to break through, okay, fine. But it rampaged way higher, as I think pretty much all of you listening know. It says, then they wrote here, the move quickly snowballed into a parabolic rally, carrying the token to its all-time peak of nearly $3.31 within a year. Yeah, so it hit the peak, $3.35 was the number, but January 4th, 2018, obviously. So that was the peak for the cycle. And that was the all-time high for like the next 7 years. That's how long it took because of all the SEC nonsense. So anyway, they're right here. XRP is exhibiting an almost identical setup in 2025, a quarterly candle flipping green after years of consolidation, accompanied by a decisive breakout above a long-standing resistance zone, which aligns with the $2.20 to $2.30 area. Already broken above the resistance as it similarly did in 2017, Mikey Bull Crypto wrote, suggesting that history may rhyme with an eventual push toward the $5 to $15 range. Folks, that is not crazy stuff here. Definitely not crazy stuff. By the way, I do think this is hilarious. The guy's name is Mikey Bull Crypto, and they wrote Milky Bull Crypto like throughout this entire article. They never caught it. Good job, Cointelegraph. You're typing stuff on the internet. Yay. On a scale of 1 to 10, you get 2 thumbs up. You freaking idiot sticks. Anyway. That includes a 2017-like symmetrical triangle breakout scenario as shown below, so that's what's on your screen right here. Another technical setup, a bull flag pattern, projects XRP to approach or hit $15. Again, I'll just keep saying it, not crazy. Definitely not crazy stuff here. And check this out too. XRP rally not overheated yet, on-chain data shows. XRP's on-chain metrics are also leaning bullish. That includes XRP's MVRV Z-score, a gauge of how far market value sits above holders' aggregate cost basis. The score remains well below the overheated band that coincided with prior blow-off tops. A mid-cycle Z-score signals there's still room for upside towards $3 to $5 while keeping the long-term shot, $10 to $15 target in play. XRP wallets holding between 10 and 100,000 tokens have remained steady through the latest market correction, showing no signs of capitulation. And that's what I was referencing at the outset of the video. You'll love to see it, folks. I'm not kidding you. XRP has never been so freaking perfectly positioned. Fundamentals have never been stronger. This is a time to be bullish and optimistic so far as I'm concerned, and I sure as hell am. I'm going to get mine, and I hope you get yours too. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.